Welcome to our Hoop Stats Bracketology update. You're here with Megan Gauer, our Hoop Stats Bracketologist, and we are taking a look at the top 16 seeds in the tournament should it start today. So taking a look at all the action that's happened up until January 10th and how that would shake out if this was the body of work that these teams had going into the tournament. The selection committee will, of course, release their official look at what those top 16 seeds look like twice before the actual selection Sunday coming in February, but we're taking a look a little bit earlier now that we've seen a good amount of games from all of these teams. One thing that you'll notice as you look at our reveal here is that Maryland and UConn, two teams that have the talent to make a deep run in March, are title contenders, aren't necessarily where you would expect to see a title contender on the seed list. You've got Maryland at the number 7 overall seed on the 2 line towards the bottom, and then UConn as the number 9 overall seed, so on the 3 line in Bridgeport. These two teams have both had their fair share of injuries to start off the season. Maryland had an early season tournament during Thanksgiving time where they dropped 2 games with a quite depleted roster. They've since bounced back, only dropping games to South Carolina and an overtime loss on the road to Indiana. Since those 2 losses, UConn had an early season loss to South Carolina and now has dropped 2 more games to Georgia Tech and to Louisville in the absence of Paige Bueckers, who is expected to be back in time for the NCAA tournament. Those injuries that these teams have dealt with will be considered when the selection committee looks at their resume during the selection process, but one thing that's keeping these teams from moving up on those seed lines, despite the fact that the injuries will be considered, is that both are struggling to really build a body of work that has significant wins on it. For Maryland, they have a great win over Baylor, but their next best win is over the Hoop Stats number 81 team in Purdue, so the Terps just have a kind of gap there that they need to fill. And then for UConn, they don't really have a signature top 10 win yet. They've got some solid wins over Notre Dame, over USF, over Arkansas, but no one in that top tier to really set them out as a statement win. So both teams have some work to do in the coming months to really build their resume if they want to move up on the seed lines before the NCAA tournament. Luckily, both of these teams have plenty of opportunities ahead of them to do so. For Maryland, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in Big Ten play to get some of those statement wins that they're lacking. They're going to play Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, and Indiana, all teams that are ranked in the top 25 currently. Particularly, the end of their regular season stretch involves all 4 of those teams. Their last 4 regular season games will be those 4 teams back-to-back, so that's going to be a really important stretch of the season for Maryland, particularly their final game of the regular season against Indiana, a rematch of the overtime loss, this time on their home floor. That's a chance to pick up a really high-quality win for them, as well as they go into the Big Ten tournament, they're going to face some of these teams again, likely, maybe even Indiana in a Big Ten championship. So they've got a lot of opportunities in conference play to rack up some important wins and move up on the seed line. For UConn, there's not a lot of ways they can help themselves in Big East play. They, of course, need to win those games, but they're not going to really rack up statement wins in their conference. But the Huskies still have 3 non-conference games coming up. They are on the road at Oregon next week. They are playing South Carolina, and they are playing Tennessee. So 3 big opportunities to gain some really important wins for UConn. Of course, they're still not going to have Paige Bueckers in those games, so that's probably easier said than done for the Huskies. They really control their own fate at this point, though, where they're going to end up in the seed lines come March. Winning 2 of those games could probably push them onto a 2 seed line. They'd probably need to win all 3 to even have a shot at a 1 seed at this point. But I think, knocking out Tennessee, getting a win over a solid Oregon team that has had its own fair share of injuries but is definitely looking better, can help the Huskies move up to maybe be a 2 seed come tournament time and position themselves better for the NCAA tournament. So lots of games for these 2 teams upcoming to circle on your calendar and keep an eye on how they're going to change their fate in the NCAA tournament come March.